Hello friends. Today I'm going to tell you about the movie A Cure for Wellness. Successful yaps come to a remote sanatorium, where visitors are subjected to strange water procedures. The film begins with the businessman working late at the office. Suddenly, he is plagued by a pain in his chest. He drinks water from the cooler, but a heart attack is not treated this way. The businessman falls dead in a deserted office. Only his photo on the wall as the best employee of the year looks blankly at the unfolding tragedy. The train rushes through the picturesque landscapes of the Swiss Alps. He is taking the main character, an aspiring financier Lockhart, on a business trip. The young man throws nicotine gum and does not get off the phone, doing business and money. The trip is interrupted by a flashback. Lockhart is moving to a new office. His superiors appreciate him. When a young man is called up, he is full of optimism. However, the board of directors shows him a strange letter from the CEO of Pembroke, who left for an alpine sanatorium and from there sent a notification that he was quitting business. But the fact is that his signature is extremely important for the upcoming deal. Lockhart is sent on a business trip. Find and bring the CEO to New York. In this way, he will make amends for financial fraud, otherwise he will go to prison. Before leaving, he visits his mother in a nursing home. She gives him a handmade ballerina figurine as a souvenir and says goodbye to her son, confident that he will not return. On a winding road, Lockhart is driven past a village at the foot of a mountain, on top of which a sanatorium can be seen. The driver tells the legend that once there was a castle of a baron obsessed with the purity of blood. The peasants burned down the estate when he decided to marry his own sister. They are entering the territory. A young businessman sees old men in white clothes having fun in the fresh air. Lockhart asks to wait, and he goes to the reception. The visits are closed for today, and then the yuppie asks to call the administrator. While waiting, the young man tries to call the office, but the connection does not catch here. He wanders around the green lawn, where they notice a ventilation window to the basement in the wall of an old chapel. Talking with the administrator, the young man notices an old photo from the stand of the sanatorium on the site of the burnt castle. The doctor treats him to local miraculous water, simultaneously throwing vitamins from a blue bottle. The administrator suggests visiting in the evening when the Pembroke procedures are over. The hero has no choice but to get back into the car. On the way out, he notices a girl in a blue dress on the fortress wall. On the way back, a natural deer crashes into the car, which leads to an accident. Lockhart loses consciousness, but wakes up already in the sanatorium ward. He is greeted by a cast on his leg and Dr. Heinrich Vollmer. The medic reports that he reported to the young man's superiors about unforeseen circumstances, and he himself will have to spend several days in the sanatorium. The main thing: drink plenty of water to acclimatize successfully. After the conversation, Lockhart, standing at the window, watches how the window at the base of the chapel is being repaired. Then he drains a glass of water and notices a small spot on the glass, which turns out to be some kind of bug. The young man wanders around the building, looking at how patients, under the supervision of staff, are engaged in various water procedures. Soon he himself is invited to the steam baths. In a sauna full of couples, Lockhart gets lost at some point and discovers that the passage behind his back has disappeared. He finds himself in a closed room with no exit, but after a few moments he sees a corridor at the end of which a deer flashes. He goes there and finds Pembroke. The purpose of your visit. The old man refuses to return to the city for business. He talks about the need to purify himself, and then remembers the young man's father. They started together before they dumped him. Suddenly, the old man agrees to return home for a few days. Lockhart asks the receptionist to call a taxi. He waits outside, where Mrs. Watkins approaches him. A big fan of riddles. She studies the history of this place, as well as local legends. The hero sees a girl in a blue dress. Her name is Hannah, and she's a special patient. Lockhart admits that he will leave soon, to which she wonders, why leave here? Beautiful landscapes make a guy think about it. When Lockhart returns, he cannot find Pembroke. In the dining room, where there are patients with Dr. Vollmer, the doctor admits that he felt sick after talking about work and was sent for special procedures. The young man breaks into a scream, but suddenly his nose bleeds and he falls unconscious. Vollmer examines him in the office. Lockhart already needs special care at such a young age. Yuppie agrees to the doctor's offer, but as soon as he leaves, the guy steals Pembroke's medical card. Handing over Orina, Lockhart notices that in one test tube, in addition to the liquid, there is something extraneous, similar to a parasite. Lockhart is immersed in a sensory deprivation chamber. He is warned that the absence of stimuli can lead to hallucinations. Floating in the liquid, the hero recalls his childhood, but suddenly notices a lot of acne. He tries to reach the nurse, but he is distracted by the nurse. Trying to surface, Lockhart loses the oxygen hose and suffocates in the water, unable to open the lid. When the pulse has dropped, his father's death flies in front of him. He stopped the car with his son right on the bridge, went out on the road and jumped over the railing. An orderly pumps Lockhart out. They inspect the camera. There are no blackheads inside. In the ward, the hero looks at me from Pembroke and notices oddities with Jaws. He is distracted by a strange noise from the bathroom. The handle of the drain tank twitches arbitrarily. Approaching the toilet, the young man notices how a worker is rolling a cart with a body into the chapel. The next morning he talks to Mrs. Watkins. She says that the villagers burned down the castle not for the cosplay of Jaime Lannister. The reason was medical experiments, for which the Baron kidnapped people. Their dried corpses were found on arable land. Lockhart suspects that the Baron was looking for medicines for his wife. The lady is taken away for procedures. The young man examines the door in the tower, but is chased away by a worker. Noticing Hannah, the hero goes to her. He asks to give him a ride on a bicycle to the village, giving in return a memorable figure of a ballerina received from her mother before her death. Together they go down the mountain to the village. Lockhart leaves the girl alone in the pub, and he goes to the vet opposite to consult about Pembroke. The result turns out to be interesting. Despite the abundance of drinking in the sanatorium, tooth loss is associated with dehydration. Also, the animal doctor complements the legend. The wife, the Baron's sister, was infertile. Every attempt to conceive turned into a miscarriage of a deformed fetus. At the end of the conversation, the veterinarian rips open the belly of a deer that drank water from a spring in the mountains. His guts are full of live eels. In the pub, Lockhart calls the office. It turns out that the doctor did not warn anyone about the accident. The hero wants to talk to Hannah about what is happening in the sanatorium, but a local punk has already set his eyes on her. A fight ensues, which is interrupted by the appearance of Dr. Vollmer. He takes the fugitives back. In Hannah's room, they almost fight. The girl feels pain in her stomach, but the doctor promises to cure her. Lockhart dreams of Hannah naked in a bathroom full of live eels. He wakes up from a nightmare and sees a worker rolling an empty gurney out of the basement. At the mirror, the businessman notices how the tooth is loose and easily comes off. He goes to the reception to report it. But when the nurse leaves, she sees Pembroke's current location in the list of appointments. The one in the transfusion wing. The hero goes there, trying not to catch the eye of the staff. There is a gurney with a body near the elevator. The lying old man suddenly opens his eyes and screams. This helps distract the orderlies from the elevator, and while they are examining the screamer, Lockhart sneaks into the cabin and descends below. He finds several rooms with pressure chambers. In the other room, Mrs. Watkins is lying on a gurney. She says that she left Lockhart hints. It also turns out that the Baroness was pregnant, but the crowd cut the fetus out of the womb and threw it into the lake. However, the baby survived. The guy notices parasites under the woman's skin and recoils in horror, dropping a metal cabinet. The orderlies run to the noise, from whom he hides behind one of the countless doors. There are a lot of water tanks in which people swim, including CEO Pembroke. In anger, Lockhart tries to break the glass, but nothing comes out. He runs up the stairs, but bumps into the orderlies and Dr. Vollmer. Doctors drag him to the dental office to check what's wrong with the tooth. Lockhart is fitted with clamps, after which the front tooth is drilled. Somehow getting out of the chair, the guy climbs into the car that brought the next patient, and asks him to take him away urgently. They go to the policeman, where Lockhart claims illegal experiments. But when the representative of the authorities comes out, the hero sees a branded blue bottle of medicine in the closet. A policeman returns to the office with Dr. Vollmer, who calls Lockhart a patient suffering from hallucinations and aggressive behavior. Pembroke appears next, confirming that the young man threatened him. The fact that the old man is alive unsettles Lockhart. He doubts his own sanity and returns to the boarding house. In the morning he is sitting in the room at the table in front of Mrs. Watkins' notes. His attention is attracted by the sound of the twitching handle of the drain tank. After removing the lid, he sees a lot of blackheads inside, but after a second they disappeared, as if they had flushed into the sewer. Lockhart breaks out the toilet to check, but Gree has not returned. The hero writes a letter to the board of directors akin to what Pembroke wrote earlier. Then he goes through a series of procedures. But at some point, the guy breaks a glass of water and cuts the plaster with a splinter. There's nothing wrong with the leg, it's not broken, as the doctor said, it was just a trick. Having demolished the castle, he climbs into the basement with a shovel at the ready. Inside there is an underground lake and an ancient laboratory. It contains acne cut up because of alcohol, a lot of records, deformed human embryos, as well as skin removed from someone's faces. There is also a kind of altar with a portrait of the Baroness, who is very similar to Hannah, only a little older. Descending lower, Lockhart sees a gurney with a body, under a sheet, the deceased Mrs. Watkins. A worker is coming from above. Hiding, the guy witnesses how he throws the corpse into the lake, where eels rush at him. A fight ensues between the worker and the hero. Lockhart smashes the opponent's head with a brick, avoids. Terrified, Hannah, not understanding what is happening, goes to the dining room, to Dr. Vollmer. Seeing the blood on the dress, he, in turn, rejoices. Lockhart appears and tells her to let her go. The doctor tries to negotiate, but the young man pushes the speech to the patients that they are being deceived here and poisoned with incomprehensible water. The old men rise from their seats, but not at all to protest. Instead, they grab an impudent youngster. Lockhart is taken down to the transfusion wing, where he is placed in a pressure chamber. Vollmer explains that the water in the lake allows eels to live 10 times longer than their species lives under normal conditions. But it is toxic to humans if it is not filtered out beforehand. And the filters are human bodies, from which the mysterious blue medicine is evaporated. It helps the locals to live for many years. Later, the doctor tells Hannah that she has gone from a girl to a woman. She goes to Lockhart, who is sitting on a bench outside, and returns the ballerina, saying that he had hoped in vain that she would be able to leave here, because the doctor would never let her go. And the young man suddenly stopped understanding why he should leave here at all, because it's so beautiful here. In the evening, dozens of employees of the sanatorium and the village arrange a wedding ceremony for the doctor and Hannah. Vollmer leads the girl to an underground lake, where there is a laboratory, an altar, and a bed. Here they have to conceive a child. Hannah refuses, but the man ties her up. In retaliation, the girl hits him in the face, and the skin on his forehead diverges. Lockhart, fiddling with the ballerina in his hands, comes out of a state of delirium, clouding of the mind. Comparing the words of the late Mrs. Watkins, he breaks a glass in the administrator's office with a photo from a century ago, during the construction of the boarding house. There is a man with a bandaged head holding the hand of a little girl in a light dress. Realizing that the doctor is the Baron who discovered the cure for aging, and Hannah, his daughter, the hero runs into the dungeon, where he pours gasoline. The Baron is trying to stop him. He even removes the leather mask from his face, revealing a green burnt mess. But Lockhart sets the fire anyway. Sparks enter the ventilation system and set fire to the curtains in the hall, where the medical staff arranges a ball in honor of the wedding ceremony. A fight ensues, and the man almost feeds the young man to the eels when the girl appears. With a powerful blow, she sticks a shovel into her father's disfigured face. After getting out of the dungeon, Lockhart's fans admire the fire, against which the patients continue to dance. Leaving the buildings engulfed by fire behind, they ride a bicycle firmly, but on a turn they crash into a car. Inside, members of the board of directors. Lockhart doesn't listen to their orders. Instead, he gets back on his bike and drives away with a 200-year-old girl, smiling like a madman.
That's all for today. Put likes and write comments if you want more similar videos.